Yeah, and you know what's awesome about what happened with the journey. So I was still preaching. I had stopped being a pastor, but I was still speaking in churches and in youth events. And a lot of the people in the strongman community that were friends of mine started to notice. So they started joking around like, "Oh, this is the world's strongest preacher," like. And I remember I searched the hashtag and I was like, "Oh, there's only one other guy somewhere in Texas or something." And I think I can beat him if we competed together. So maybe I am the world's strongest preacher. And
I
we
mean,
started.
I'm for that competition. I want to see it.
And I remember we joked around about it. And but what started happening, which was interesting, was friends of mine started to come train with me. And while they were with me, like I would notice sometimes like there were some of them that would break down crying, like in the middle of our workout. And I wouldn't know what was going on. And I'd be like, all right, you know what? Hey, let's get this next set in together. Let's just kind of push through, and we'll talk about it later if you want to. And if not, man, just I'm here to train with you. And I remember I would pray with people in the gym, like literally, like I would go pull them aside afterwards and be like, hey man, you mind if I pray with you, man? Let's just, and sometimes it was just talk or whatever. And it wasn't about being Christian. It wasn't about being any of that. It was just about being there for someone who needed you most and showing them what system of belief has helped you through life, has given you hope, has given you all those things that you need in those tough moments. So I'm talking like every single competition I've done, I've run into somebody who's become a friend who I pray with, who I've prayed with at some point, right? And God started using, I'm telling you, started using the sport. And when I went to last year, I qualified to go to nationals. The comp that I actually won was in the gym where I started strongman. I finally got to compete in my weight class, and I took first place there and had a 635 deadlift conventional. So I beat that old 550. I hit 635, which was a PR, all time PR, and I remember like there were people there who were watching, and the whole time before every single event, I was in prayer. I was like, God, what are we gonna do? God, lead me through this. And there were other people, Christian lifters, who were there that knew what I was doing, knew that I was praying, knew that I was seeking God throughout this. So it really became it like God took over, because God says he's a jealous God, right? So he's got to be first in everything. And so God completely
Yeah.
took over my training. So now, like when I go to do something that's a huge PR, or a big lift for me, I always praise God. Like I always tap my head, like, head and heart. I always do that, head and heart. And if you watch some of my videos, you'll see me do that, head and heart. And it's not the Catholic prayer. It's not that. It's just me saying my thoughts, meaning what God has put in my mind, has to overrule my emotions, head and heart, head over heart,
Mm.
every single time. And because sometimes doubt wants to creep in. It's the weirdest thing. But when I'm in it, it's like I zone everything out. I don't hear anything. I may hear one or two voices in the background of people who I've been talking to maybe often, or who I've trained with, that I know I can distinctly hear their voice. But after that, I don't really hear much of anything. And one of the biggest moments that I attribute to God in my fitness journey was that 635 deadlift. And the reason why I say that is not because I haven't passed that, because I have now. But when I did it, I had already won the event when I hit 585. But when I went to the comp, I was like, 635. I thought maybe I'd do 605, but they were doing 50-pound jumps, so you got to do whatever the jump is, and it was 635. There was no reason to keep going, but there was another guy, very Christian lifter, that I'd love to introduce you to. His name is Ronnie Geraldo. He
Yeah.
was like, he went up. He was a 10 kilos less than me, but he's a world known powerlifter. I mean, the kid is just different, and he worships God too. And I remember when he grabbed that bar, he looked at me and he goes, "If I get it, you got to get it." It's a real short video clip, but he goes, "If I get it, you got to get it." And he did it. And so I remember when I strapped into it, like I was kneeling down, I kind of look up like, all right, God, here we go. I'm kneeling down, I'm strapping up. And like I said, I didn't have to do this lift, but then it's like everybody knew I didn't have to, but I was still going for it. And I have that
Mm.
video. It's one of my favorite videos where I'm like pulling the weight and I've already kind of gotten it past that point. So I'm smiling because in my mind, I'm like, I did it. and everybody around me's yelling. Even the judge gives me the down command because I already nailed the deadlift, but I'm still looking up.
Yeah.
And then finally I look at him and I realize it's like, okay, I did it. And then I put it down. And I remember I wasn't yelling, I wasn't screaming, I wasn't getting in anybody's face. I was just grateful. It was like grateful for that moment. So my attitude completely shifted.